My name is Miguel Mata, first generation American, retired military veteran, and now full-time college student. In my lifetime, I've come to meet people from all walks of life, from every corner of the country and most parts of the world, and what I can tell you is, everyone has a story. On my channel, I plan to share those stories with all of you and prove that despite the differences that make each of us who we are as individuals, fundamentally, we are all the same. And I believe that through the common thread of overcoming challenges, caring for our loved ones, and helping our communities, the rest of us will realize that our world is actually much brighter than some would make us think. And now, to shed more light. This Way Out. Hello, welcome back to This Way Out, episode 14, or 15, or 16, I'm not sure. But back to This Way Out, and Miguel Mata. My guest today is...
Ian Braddock.
Ian Braddock. He's got a very serious look on his face. I don't know. We might be in for a surprise here. Ian Braddock is a friend of mine from school, and he's been a big supporter of the show, which I appreciate.
Of course.
So, of course, I've got to have him on and have his own episode. And as it turns out, I am proving my theory true. Everybody has a story, no matter how small you think it might be or how insignificant you might think it is. Everybody has a story. I know you didn't convey that idea, that thought, but I've met people and I've asked them to be on the show, and some of them, a lot of them say, I don't have a story, I don't have anything worth sharing, and they always do. And here I am. We kind of set this up, kind of quick, and we've been here talking before we started recording, and you've got some really interesting stuff to share. Not all good, unfortunately.
No, can't have the good without the bad, man.
Yeah, not all good, but you're doing good things now, and we'll get into that too. You've got some pretty serious goals in mind, and admirable, I think. And I'm curious to know, how your story how it ends up there. But we'll figure that in a minute. But thanks for being on.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So, the way I start these interviews is we try to learn a little bit about you, the person.
Oh Lord.
The person. What was your upbringing like? What makes up Ian Braddock? Kind of what we learned in a little bit ago before we started recording, is that there was you experienced some difficulty pretty quick in your young life. Up until when you were 8, something happened. What was that?
When I was I can't remember if it was 8 or 9, but my parents got divorced. They split.
Yeah. And when that happened, that was a rough experience for you?
Yeah, I mean it was really rough. Because it's like when your parents split, it's like having two different worlds. You have your mom's world, where I lived most of the time, and then you have your dad's world, where I saw him like once a week or twice a month on the weekends or 2 weeks in the summer. So it's just, really big differences between the two. How mom parents, how dad parents, what's acceptable here, what's acceptable there, what are the rules?
Yeah.
Things like that.
And I'd imagine it'd be difficult because, you were 8 or 9, you knew life before that, what that was like, and then for it to change the way it did probably was I don't know if traumatic's the right word, but it was definitely hard. Scary, yeah.
Right, yeah, I wouldn't say traumatic, so to say, although I'm sure some people would argue that it is. I would say that it challenges your preconceived notions, about like what a young child thinks about like their parents or the notion of marriage or whatever you want to call it. Because once your parents are split and divorced, sometimes they go back out and they start dating and they find somebody. So then you see like dad with a different person and mom with a different person. So it really, it can kind of put your head in a blender,
Yeah.
just kind of make you think.
Did
about
you see
things.
that? Is that what you experienced? Did dad start dating somebody, and did mom start dating somebody?
Yeah, and that was just weird because a young child. I mean, I don't think it now, but a young child that sees like his dad out with another woman romantically, is gonna look at that. Why isn't mom there? Why isn't that mom? And the same thing with mom. Why isn't that dad? Why isn't dad here?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I experienced.
Yeah. Jeez, dude, that would be rough. I'm a product of divorced parents myself, but I was very, very young, and I didn't have those thoughts. It was already normal by the time I guess I was having like conscious memories or whatever. I don't know.
Gotcha.
But it was already normal for them to be apart and be in other relationships. My mom got remarried a couple of times. My dad didn't get with someone until I was much older, like 10 years old, but I didn't have those kind of thoughts, those kind of experiences, because I was really young when they split up. So I can imagine though that must have been pretty rough.
It was rough. It just challenges, like I said, the preconceived notions, like, or it challenges what's supposed to happen, how life's supposed to be.
Right.
And another thing, like you go to school, and as a young kid, and people are talking about their parents, things like that, and a lot of people's parents are still together, and then you're like, oh, well, my parents are divorced.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that again, not traumatic, but it definitely plays a role.
Did it take a long time? Like, when did you get used to the idea of your folks being split up? I don't know. I don't know what I'm asking, but you're 8 years old, you're 9 years old, your world kind of gets turned upside down. For how long was your world, would you say, is upside down before you got used to the idea of your folks were split up?
I'd say 9. I'd say maybe 7 years, 8 years.
It took a while.
It took a while again because on top of your parents being divorced and them getting remarried and things like that, you also have everything else that's going on in life. When you're in middle school and then you go to high school, and it's just like one thing on top of the other. Everything just builds up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say I got used to it when I was like 16, 17.
I would say probably about that time when you started like thinking about your stuff, your situation, because that's about that same time. Teenagers become about 15 or 16 is when you have your own stuff going on, your own interests.
Right.
What are you going to be doing? What interests you? You know what? I think that actually makes a lot of sense. So I told you, my dad got with they didn't really get married. It was a common law thing, right? But she had her own kids, and my dad had me, and it was ugly. Let me just say it that way. It was ugly. When those two got together, and then us kids got together, there was no getting used to stage. It was just like, and as you can imagine, boom, it was an explosion of just hardship. Okay. But around that time, 15, 16 years old, that's when it started to taper off. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like all the, not necessarily the drama, there's plenty of drama, but the anger and the frustration and the venom and all that stuff between me and my stepbrothers, it kind of tapered off, and I think that was why, because we started getting other interests. And that was the case with you think?
I don't know if it was so much that me and like my new stepsons got along. I've always gotten along really well with my stepbrother Jesse. That's my stepmom's son. We've always gotten along really well. As far as like my other stepbrother and my stepsister, that from my stepdad, things were rough, but I think that also plays into, like, we were raised two different ways, and different parents, different parenting styles, and what's acceptable, what's not. Some blended families, it is rough sometimes, but I think it also is important that, like 16, 17, you're not at home as much because you're out with your friends, or
right, yeah,
you're doing whatever. So I think that might also be a reason why it kind of like tapered off a little bit and simmered down.
I'm curious. Okay, so my home life, it was our home life, not a whole lot of fun at home. right? It was just bleh. It was bad. It was bad. It had its good times, but its bad times were outnumbered the good times. That being said, like, my brothers and I managed to find ourselves in some pretty bad situations. You know what I mean? Like, we just managed to find trouble. Were you in that same sort of situation? Because you had stuff going on, right? You got your parents stuff, all that stuff, building up. Not building up, but you were experiencing that, right? And then did that lead into any, like, crazy teenage rebellion or anything like that?
I'd say, if I definitely found trouble if I wanted to.
Right.
I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, trouble found me." It's like, no, you went looking. You found what you were looking for.
And I'm not trying to put all the blame on your parents getting divorced or anything like that. But,
no, you're good.
But it was a contributing factor.
I mean, it's definitely a contributing factor.
Maybe. Okay.
I mean,
anyway,
if you don't want to be at home,
right?
You're gonna go somewhere else.
Right,
you're gonna
right.
find something to do.
Right.
Probably won't be, good for you.
Right.
But you'll find something that will suit your fancy to get you what you want.
Right.
I mean, it's like I had a string of girlfriends that were not very good for me. I mean, sure, at the time, yeah, whatever. But it's not conclusive to a good long-term stable relationship is probably the best way for me to put it.
But you were a teenager though too.
Yeah, true.
My wife would disagree with me when I say that. You're a teenager. She's got a different philosophy on dating and stuff like that.
It's your
Anyway, go ahead.
Your chance to mess up, make mistakes.
Yeah.
Before you're thrown out to the wolves in the real world.
But you were living life.
Yeah.
Through not so good relationships.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of smoking. A lot of underage drinking. Almost. I don't want to say like every day, but it's quite a bit of alcohol for somebody who was like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
To be consuming.
Right.
So. No.
You didn't have anything better to do.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like the same thing about Marines. It's like a bored Marine is like, that's not good.
Yeah.
Because again, like, they will find trouble.
An idle mind is a devil workshop.
It is. Yeah. A devil will come in.
It's a devil's workshop. Yeah. So you're kind of like, I tried to put the flag behind you, so you can see that you're a Marine. But I'm curious about that crazy girlfriend thing. Like, what is your definition of a crazy girlfriend?
When I say crazy, I mostly mean like she was not good for me.
Oh, okay.
She had all kinds of she was 16, I think. She had a massive drinking problem.
Right.
What else?
Does she have a troubled home life too?
Yeah. I mean, her mom, for example, had drug issues. I mean, you could tell.
Yeah.
And as well as the fact that she just had a lot of trust issues, so it made things incredibly difficult. But like I'd go over to her place, and her place was it was a catalyst for making bad decisions because the options were available there to make them.
Were y'all very promiscuous?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, I was dad at 16. So if you don't know any better ish, you're gonna jump into that sort of stuff when the hormones are going crazy. At that stage of life, you typically jump in the sack with whoever's willing to jump in the sack with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Was that what you were going through too?
Kinda, yeah.
Kinda.
I mean, it wasn't so much like different people, but it was just like a constant. It was just constantly like me and her like having issues and drinking all the time, and she'd sell drugs and stuff like that. And
interesting. And you didn't it never occurred to you that this was something that you wanted to. I mean, it never crossed your mind that this is a bad idea to be involved with this person?
At the time, I didn't really care. I wasn't really thinking, past next Friday, next Saturday. I didn't really.
You were just doing the thing.
Yeah, just doing the thing,
Living it.
Okay. Week by week.
That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, but it sounds like you were living.
I was living the life, I guess. If
you were living the life, yeah. I guess what keeps crossing my mind is like, what's going on at home? Like, was it rough at home that you were? Because look, what I'm not trying to connect dots, but what happens sometimes is if things are rough at home, then for some reason you find yourself in these kind of relationships, these sort of situations. And I think you mentioned it earlier, like birds of a feather. Like people have rough home life. This person has a rough home life. They just managed to find each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it sounds like maybe that's what happened with you. And that was around 16 or 17. So was the home life still kind of turbulent?
It was turbulent in the way, and this wasn't between. The turbulence was not between like my mom and my dad. At this point, if I remember correctly, like both my mom and my dad had gotten remarried. Me and my stepdad, like we got along, pretty good at first. Like when I first met him and things like that. He's the man who taught me how to change the oil in my car.
Right.
And how to like work on them and stuff like that. But he's now deceased, unfortunately, and we just started butting heads a lot.
Okay.
Just because what played into it was like he and his daughter moved into like my mom's house, my house, whatever. We just started like butting heads and things like that. And I guess to me, my mom would defend him and not me, and I'm like, well, I'm your flesh and blood, I'm your child. Mm-hmm. So why would you not defend your own flesh and blood?
Right.
That played into it. Like I think I told you there was one time where like I had issues at home and I just like packed a bag and I just walked. It was like 25 miles. I didn't have a car, didn't really have any money, but I ended up finding a place to stay, crashing at a friend's place, and being okay. So
looking back on it, just hindsight being what it is, I'm not trying to turn this into I don't want to bash your stepdad, obviously, because he's passed on, and I'm curious, just looking back on it now, how do you feel about that moment in time? Do you think that, in hindsight being what it is, I'm not necessarily like who's wrong or who's right, but does it seem to you like it served a purpose? Like, do you kind of understand his perspective? Do you maybe think that it could have been done differently? Like, what I guess what I'm asking is, like, did you learn anything from that? I don't know. I'm curious. Naturally inquisitive person. Like, do you have? Okay, how about this? Let me ask this way: about that period in time. And once again, I'm not trying to bash anybody. Do you still have hard feelings about it? Do you have hard feelings about it? Do you have trouble or difficulty with that period of your life? Like, when you think about it, does it make you uncomfortable? That sort of stuff?
No, I don't have issues with it. It doesn't make me uncomfortable or anything like that. I guess I look at everything as a learning experience. Things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
I understand things a lot better now that I'm a little older. My time in the Marine Corps. And the fact that I'm divorced myself.
Right.
So it helps put things in perspective and kind of understand like where he was coming from with different things and stuff like that.
Cool, man. So you learned something from it. You were able to take something positive away from it.
Yeah.
You were able to take something positive away.
Yeah. Okay. And I think you always have to try and take something positive.
Right.
You're always going to work for, different people. Some people you like, some people you hate.
Right.
I always tell people, take the good stuff from your leaders that you like and, put it in your toolbox.
Right.
Like all the bad stuff, don't take it, put it away, get rid of it, because you don't need it.
Why did you join the Marine Corps?
So I joined the Marine Corps. I really wasn't doing anything with my life. But I knew I wanted to do more. I felt like I wanted to use the phrase like I was meant for something better or something more. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't take really that much skill to slap a burger on a bun or to or to make a pizza, for example.
Right,
And
right.
I managed a Domino's in Colombia, and it doesn't really. Sure, you have to have certain skills, and you have to be able to talk to people,
Right.
but it doesn't. It's not. It's not.
You just felt like you were meant for more.
A buddy of mine called, who was in the Marine Corps, and he was like, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm doing nothing with my life." And he was like, "Well, why don't you come out to the station? We'll talk." And I talked to him, and I already knew what I was gonna do when I walked in there. Like walking in the door, I was like, "Yep, this is it. Take my money." And I sat down with him and I talked, and I went and I talked to the recruiter. I ended up signing papers that day to join. I had to lose 20, 30, almost 45 pounds to join, and I did that in a span of maybe 7-8 months.
Okay. Wow.
So it was just me working out, twice a day, every day. Seriously watching what I was eating and things like that. But I joined because I want to do something that mattered. Make a difference in somebody's life.
Right.
So it's kind of the down and dirty. Well,
so was that your focus, to make a difference in somebody else's life?
It was the main focus was to do something that mattered.
Okay.
Because so many people, they just go about their days and they're doing,
right,
whatever, and they don't pay attention to anybody.
Is that something that you thought about? You were thinking about at that time? Was that thought swirling around in your head pretty frequent? Before your friend called?
I think it was a mixture of me wanting to do something more and make an impact
and being hungry.
Yes. Yes. And also like not being able to be financially stable.
Right. Okay.
Which it's a struggle for all young adults. It's getting an education and getting a job and being independent, and it's really hard to do that if you don't have a good source of income. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a mixture of the two. Mm-hmm. I'd always been kind of interested in joining the military. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of looked at it like Marine Corps is, I don't want to say the best, but it's
definitely challenge you. It'll challenge you.
Yeah. And you'll go in as one person, you'll come out completely different.
And you knew that was probably going to happen with you.
I knew it would probably be good for me. Mm-hmm. Because it's not. I used to tell my Marines this all the time, but it's not what you want; it's what you need. I might not have wanted to hate my life for 13 weeks at Paris Island. Mm-hmm. But I probably needed it. And I try to make the distinction between the two. And it's not always, what you think is good for yourself, but it's what's actually good for you.
All right. What'd you do in the Marine Corps?
So I did a few different things. First and foremost, every Marine is a rifleman. That's not the job that I did by any means. I fueled airplanes, anything from airplanes and helicopters, trucks, generators, anything that takes any type of gas, basically. Mm-hmm. Anything from a generator that you'd use to, start up a Harrier or not a Harrier, but a Prowler, to a CH-53 helicopter to a C-17 or C-9. Commercial aircraft as well.
H-53s are retired in the Air Force. Are they retired in the Marine Corps?
No, we actually just got a new model.
HH-53s. We called them an HH-53.
It's the I think it's the H model. My little brother Alex, he's in the Marine Corps as well. He's a 53 mechanic. He works at in California, at San Diego.
That's cool. I think the Air Force is strictly HH-60s now. Blackhawks.
Nice. Those are nice.
Yeah.
Those are very nice birds, actually. I feel some of those as well. Cold fuel. They didn't go through the pits.
Yeah.
I fueled airplanes and not tanks, but basically anything that took gas. And then I was a lab tech. I went to lab tech school for the Marine Corps up in Fort Lee, Virginia. And my job then was basically to test the fuel, to make sure it was safe, make sure it was in a margin of error that was acceptable to go into aircrafts, whether it was commercial grade or whether it was military, whatever. If it's a ground vehicle, we still cared, we still tested it obviously, but we weren't as concerned about a generator stopping to work as we were concerned with what happens when you put a ton of fuel in a C-17 and it's full of water, and there's an additive in it called fizzy, and what the fizzy does is it attracts the water to it, so the fuel doesn't freeze.
Right. Yeah.
The fuel lines.
Right.
So that was it was an important job.
Right. Yeah. And you don't want aircraft stalling out mid-flight.
No, not at all. Not at all. Nobody wants that feeling.
Yeah.
So I did that, and when I got to Japan, I was a squad leader for the engineer battalion for the fuel company that we had out there, and then I got transferred to headquarters where I was a platoon sergeant. I worked for the colonel, the sergeant major, and the XO, the major, and my job consisted of taking care of any and all issues that all the new Marines that we got to the battalion got, making sure that they were medically ready to deploy, making sure they had a weapon, make sure they had all their gear, their flak, protective vests, IFAC, their kits, and so they were good to go. So when they went to their companies, to their squads, they had all the tools they needed to be successful. They were financially ready.
Integrated first aid kit.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's, just personal first aid kit, but it's basically to make sure these Marines were ready to go to their units and ready to hit the ground running.
Right. Yeah.
I incorporated a lot of stuff. I started incorporating financial classes as well. Because so many, not just Marines, but so many young service members and young people in general don't know how to manage their money. So I would always try to get a financial advisor or people who did finances or they were in that type of world to come and do a brief and talk and give out business cards. So
right there, along with the actual gear and stuff like that to ensure readiness. Did you ever? Just curious. Did you ever? Because you also said that you set up briefings, a briefing for financial management. Did you talk to any of your Marines? Did you have like personal relationships with them, or did you have did you only see them in passing? What was your relationship with them? Just curious.
Marines that I had in the platoon headquarters, I was very hands-on. Most of the time it was just me, and I was a sergeant, and a bunch of privates, private first classes, lance corporals, so very junior, brand new Marines to the fleet. So I was very hands-on.
As you know, a part of this project is talking about overcoming adversities, and I know you mentioned your folks being split up when you were young. Are there any other? Is there a moment that occurred in your young life that you had overcome and maybe you learned from, or something that maybe it's something that you continue to deal with that you can share with anyone who might be watching?
I guess there's one event I can really think of. It was when I was still overseas in Japan, and me and my ex-wife had been having a lot of issues and things like that. And I hit a wall one night, and I just had enough of this, that, and the third, and whatever. And I called her and I was like, hey, I want a divorce. And I think that had a profound impact, I guess you could say, on the shaping some of my thoughts and what I think and stuff like that. And kind of challenge my outlooks on things. As it pertains to like family and marriage and things like that.
Do you mind if I back you up just a little bit? Sure. Are you saying that just there was a moment where you were having like an argument, or something like that, like you were having or did was it a spontaneous idea that popped in your head?
It was a gradually building of issues and problems, and it's like you sometimes you keep going, and then you just get burnt out, and you hit that wall, where you've had enough.
Right. Okay. So your relationship was on the rocks.
Yeah.
Had been on the rocks for a while, and you It was just that something happened that it was like straw that broke the camel's back. You hit a wall, like you said.
Right. I mean, and I'm sure.
You said you called her. Like, would you go?
I called her because
were you not living in the same house or something?
So I was in Japan and she was in the States. I was on 1 year unaccompanied orders to Japan.
Okay.
And she stayed back here in the States because they weren't funding her to come.
Right.
But if I remember correctly, I think it was an argument. I don't remember the details of the argument, but I just at that point I just realized I'd had enough, and I thought it would be better and healthier for the two of us to go our separate ways. And I don't hate her. I wish her the very best, and I hope she finds somebody to spend her life with that makes her happy. Sometimes things just don't work out.
Did you guys have trouble before you left, or did this stuff kind of come up while you were gone?
We had trouble before I left.
Oh, okay.
And we just never sought counseling for it.
Yeah, never didn't see any resolution, and now you've got to deal with being separated.
Right. So it's just like letting an open wound fester.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, dude. I'm sorry to hear that. What's your advice when it comes to that sort of stuff?
I think the best piece of advice I can give is if you're having issues, talk about them, because things that go unsaid and issues that go undealt with, it's just gonna get worse with time, and then you'll look back and be like, wow, I wish I did that, or I wish I said this. And this is for men and women, for people in general.
Right.
If you're having issues, you need to talk to to your spouse or your fiance, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever is in your life, your significant other, to get those issues resolved, because it's not going to just get better.
Man, I can speak to this pretty good. My wife and I are like two different ends of the spectrum when it comes to communication. I am of the mind that you say things when you feel them, right? You get it all out in the open,
right?
Talk about it, and let's have a hard conversation right now. My wife, on the other hand, she is, but she's got some pretty serious walls, right? I used to think my strategy was when she would put up her wall, then I would push harder, right? Got to push harder, got to break through that wall. But didn't realize that wall was actually getting thicker, stronger, and more secure.
More resilient.
Yeah, more resilient. So there was no pushing through it. And I eventually realized, finally, thank goodness, that it was, and I blame kind of the military sometimes, because that's how we handle things in the military, is that we push through problems, right? Not exactly the best rule of thumb when you're dealing with relationships and your spouses. The energy that we bring, when we're on the job, it doesn't necessarily work at home, not all the time. No. But luckily we figured that out, but until very recently. I consider myself lucky for my wife to be sticking around as long as she did, knowing that was my method,
Right.
But I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, though, is that stuff has, conversations have to take place, and I still firmly believe in that. It's just then you get into a conversation about what's the best way to have that conversation.
Right.
But I agree with you wholeheartedly that especially when it comes to trying to keep a marriage together, you got to have tough conversations.
Yeah.
And you have to know what's on each other's minds so you can be on the same page and talk through them.
Right.
It's a hard process, dude. It's a hard process, and it takes a lot of work. And I hope I'm not making you feel bad by saying all that stuff and bringing it up, man. Because
you're good, bro.
No, marriage is hard.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and just because yours ended the way it did, I hope you don't take it like personal. I mean, I'm sure it still kind of stings, or I'm sure it stings in a few different ways. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to say that you screwed up or that you're a failure or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to. I'm not saying that.
No, I got you. I mean, like I said, sometimes things just don't work out.
Yeah.
If I could give like one other piece of advice, it would be don't get married until you're like 30.
Yeah.
Wait until you've grown up a bit.
Right.
You've started a career, or you finished school, or you've done school. Been in the military, whatever.
Right.
But wait until you're a little older.
Mature.
Yeah. I mean, I got married when I was 20, which is that's young.
You're still trying to figure yourself out. You don't know yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And how old was your wife?
21.
Yeah, so she's still trying to figure herself out.
Right. Yeah.
Two people trying to figure each other out, and then trying to figure out another person. That's just a recipe for
It's
not necessarily a recipe for disaster, but it's not the best idea. Did you guys did you guys date for a while at least, or did you kind of just jump into it?
Yeah, so we were actually friends from middle school, and then we dated throughout high school, and then like the 2 years after, and then we got married when I was 20 and she was 21.
So you guys had known each other for a while, but what happened? Like what was the big thing? What was the big deal?
It was a contribution from both of us, because it'd be incredibly unfair for me to say that it was all her fault.
Right.
I mean, nobody cheated on anybody or anything like that. It's just severe lack of communication. And we wanted different things, out of life.
You guys just had conflicting personalities.
Yeah.
You didn't realize that until
right, after the fact.
Right.
Of, getting married.
You were on two different wavelengths.
Right. Yeah. And then bad communication just makes that all worse.
Yeah.
I think we're both in better places.
Yeah.
And happier. Not just happier like mentally and emotionally and yeah.
I guess in another kind of unfortunate way is like you were like a statistic. The military life, whether it did or didn't contribute to your divorce, unfortunately, it doesn't. It doesn't work. It doesn't play favorably for a lot of people who are married.
Right.
Unfortunately, the divorce rate just keeps rising and rising.
Right.
And it's just hard, man. It's hard. It's hard to make it work, and it's hard. Okay, how long were you in the in the Marines? How long were you in?
4 years.
4 years active. When did you get out?
I got out on my birthday, February 9th of 2018.
Oh, really? That wasn't that long ago.
No, it's been a year and a half. Yeah, year and a half, give or take.
What happens after you get out of the military?
So I got out of the military, and I went home. I hadn't really seen my family or anybody in about a year. I came home for a few days in May, the previous May before I got home, because I had a death in the family. I had to come home to a funeral. So I came home, and then I agreed to meet up with my wife at the time and talk to her. I felt like she deserved that respect.
Right.
It was the right thing to do. So we met up and we talked a lot. We just couldn't seem to work things out. So then we ended up officially separating, doing the paperwork and things like that. My divorce was finalized a few months ago.
Oh, okay.
So it, I got out and that happened. And then I ended up being hired to work at West Marine by the manager that works there. I used to own a sailboat that I kept a few docks down from my dad's and the gentleman who was the manager. And he hired me, and I worked there for maybe 6 months before I moved down here to Charleston. And during that 6 months, I worked in a store for a while. I don't know if it's a good idea to have a Marine fresh out of the Marine Corps doing customer service.
Okay.
I'm sure there are lots of Marines that do it. I don't know if I should have done it.
Yeah.
But I'm very grateful that the gentleman offered me a job and gave me, a source of income. Great guy. I also spent the other part of that 6 months working in the West Marine warehouse up in Rock Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And that place was a hotbed for depression, anxiety, drinking problems. I got out, and I was newly, I say single, but, separated. So newly single guy, just out of the Marine Corps with nothing but time.
Right.
Time and money. It's not exactly a good recipe for success.
Right.
Especially once you start mixing in, girls and alcohol and things like that. So I ended up, working for West Marine for about 6 months. Then I moved down here to Charleston. And then I started school here in fall of 2018. So, I'd only been out for about 6 months when I started classes. And that was it was an interesting experience. Sitting in a classroom with 18-year-olds. Or in my case, I'm a political science and international studies major. So I had one class, American government, I think it was, where 3/4 of the class was 17.
Right.
That was very interesting.
Yeah.
So, and again, I was down here in Charleston. I mean, the female to male ratio here is, 10 to 2. And, it's college, so all you're doing is, drinking.
Right.
So again, it's, a hotbed for, if you got nothing but time on your hands,
right.
and you're looking for somebody.
Is that something you're dealing with right now?
No.
The temptation of alcohol and females?
No. I'm very lucky to have a very, very good girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
The drinking, I don't really, do too much. I mean, I like to go out, with the boys, have a beer, hang out with my girlfriend, have a margarita, whatever. But it's nothing close to the extent of, what it was.
So you're settling down? A little bit.
I mean, yeah.
You're growing up.
When you say grow
okay, I'm not gonna go there. We'll just bring it on back.
No, you're good.
It's not what it once was.
Right.
It's not.
That's a good way to put it.
The party life isn't what it once was.
Also, I get tired of waking up with hangovers.
What's that?
I get tired of waking up with hangovers, and I have.
Yeah, that'll usually motivate people to.
It gets old.
Yeah.
Pain.
Yeah.
It's a good motivator.
Okay. But it's cool, man. Enjoy your life, dude. Enjoy life while you got the chance. I'm not gonna knock you. You're going to school, right? You are making your money. You're making an honest living. If you decompress a little bit by partaking in the alcohol or whatever, that's your business.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not paying your bills. So as long as your bills are getting paid, hey, pony up, do your thing, man.
Yeah,
do your thing.
And that's always kind of been my thing. As long as you take care of the things that you need to take care of, that you have to take care of,
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with going out and, killing a few beers or having a good time or whatever,
Yeah, man.
I mean,
live your life, dude. Be young. While you got the energy.
Yeah.
You still have the knees and the back and your joints are still.
So kind of.
A pretty cool little fun fact about you. You're actually working towards becoming an attorney.
Yes.
That's the end goal behind your schooling, right?
That is a goal.
Well, I mean but you're going to school to become an attorney,
right?
To try and become an attorney. You're on that track. What's that all about? How do you go from where you started to being a Marine personnelist, etc., and not a personnelist, but a platoon leader, right? So,
platoon sergeant.
Platoon sergeant. How does that trajectory lead to you wanting to become an attorney?
So there's a few different things that play into it. One of which is, I mean, why a lot of people go to law school and become lawyers is because the paycheck.
Right.
Because unfortunately we live in a society where, you obviously, you need money, to lead a certain kind of lifestyle. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying, I didn't have a lot of things that I needed or I wanted, as I was a child, but I think, every parent, would want their children to, maybe have it a little better off than they did, or as much of a head start as you can give them. And there's definitely nothing wrong with that. I mean, that by any means. Another reason that I kind of want to be an attorney and have chosen this track is because everybody has rights, and I think a lot of people don't know what those rights are. And there's a lot of crooked people in the world that'll just take your money and like, oh hey, you paid me, thanks. So I think people deserve good, equitable, and honest representation. And it's something I'm passionate about. The third thing, the big thing is I'd really like to run for public office one day. Just because I think I can make a worthwhile contribution there. That's one of the biggest issues we have right now. In politics in general, people aren't willing to compromise and listen to the other person. They just assume nowadays that if you disagree with me, you're wrong.
Right.
Instead of taking the time to think about what they're saying and oh hey, maybe there's validity to this other person's point.
Right.
So I think it's law school and becoming a lawyer is a big stepping stone for me to get my foot in the door to running for an office one day. Right now I'm working on a campaign here in Charleston it's a city council campaign for District 3, but kind of getting my feet wet, making some connections. So again, law school is it's a stepping stone for me to become a lawyer, and then that itself is a catalyst to do bigger and better things and help other people.
Wow. Well, I wish you luck, buddy.
Appreciate it.
I'm gonna share a little bit of honesty with you. I'm not much for politics.
Yeah.
So I am rooting for you.
I appreciate
it. To get your foot in the door and to hopefully get yourself on a ticket and get yourself elected.
I appreciate it.
I am going to maintain my position about how I feel about politics and politicians until you get into office. And then you will be my one and only politician I like.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't blame you.
I'm staying away from that sort of stuff and buzzwords, but for you as a goal, for you as an individual, I wish you the best of luck, especially because knowing who you are as a person, your intentions are good, right? I know your intentions are good. Not to say that politicians and blah, 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 their intentions aren't good. Whatever. I'll probably cut that out later. But I know your intentions are good.
Right.
And so I wish you the best of luck, buddy.
Thanks.
Can I ask you kind of a personal question, just a little bit of one?
Sure.
About the goal or whatever. You're looking at a lot of years of school ahead of you. Does that intimidate you at all?
No. And I say no just because if the end justifies the means,
right,
morally and ethically, and if it's just the right thing to do, then I can rationalize that to myself. I think like a lot of people, they have all these grand plans and they want to do this and the third, and then when it comes down to who's going to foot the bill, that's when people get nervous. That's when they blink. Yeah. How bad do you want it? That's what I tell myself when I'm like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do 60 credit hours in a year and a half. It's just got to get done. If I want to get to be where I want to be, it's just got to be done.
And you've made the decision that this is going to happen.
Yep.
So you are doing it.
Yep.
That's cool, man.
Can't second guess.
Right.
You make a
right. If you hesitate.
Yeah. You make a decision, you run with it, and you if it goes bad, it goes bad. Worst possible outcome, is I don't get on a ticket or I don't get into law school. But nobody died. Nobody's missing an arm or leg. Or
You're taking the Han Solo approach to becoming an attorney. Don't ever tell me the odds.
Yes. Don't ever tell me the odds.
I don't think about that until I've done it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is how I like to conclude these things. I give my interviewee the opportunity. You've got an audience, an opportunity to share a piece of advice, some nugget, anything, whatever. If you've ever had the chance to say whatever you wanted, as long as it's not too many 4-letter words or F-bombs. What is it that you would want to share? What is it you want to share?
If I give one piece of advice, one thing to share, don't flinch. Make decisions early, and make them quickly, make them decisively. Too many people, again, are always talking about, I'd love to do that, or I'd love to do this, or X, Y, Z, but they don't go and do it. They just talk about it. So don't flinch. Do what you want to do, and worry about, as long as it's morally and ethically okay. Do what you want to do. I mean, you have one life. So you should live your life. You shouldn't be, trapped in a cage of, commitments and things like that. So.
Agreed. Life's too short.
It is.
Too short to be indecisive.
Yes.
Yeah. I gotta agree with you, man. 100%. Adapt and overcome. If it's not working out, you've got yourself on a track and it's not working out the way you expected to, you just got to make a quick adjustment. Just make a little adjustment. You know what I mean? Go this way, go that way, and then I think, if you don't mind me adding on to that nugget that very good piece of advice is this, that if you make a choice to have your life play out a certain way, and it just doesn't work out, or it ends up being something that you don't want to do, it's okay to redirect the ship.
Right.
Do something different. That's okay. Of course, there are other factors that are in play. It costs money to redirect yourself. It costs time. There are other things to take into account. However, when it comes to goal setting and whatever, and you put yourself on a trajectory to do one thing, and for some reason it looks like you kind of lose a passion for it, and you want to redirect, then redirect.
Right.
Don't force it. Don't force it, because more than likely you're going to end up in a situation where you're either going to be hating life, you're going to be surrounded by people you don't like, you're going to be, it just brings drama, brings turbulence, that could have been avoided had you made the decision, once again, been decisive and redirect. Just tried something different.
Yeah, and I think it's people get stumped on that. When they fall on their face, they don't get up. What is it? It's have good friends, because you can run until you can't, and then when you can't run, you crawl. And then when you can't crawl anymore, you need good friends to carry you a little farther to the finish line.
Yeah.
So that's one other piece of advice. Just keep good company. So.
Excellent. Ian, thanks for being on this this way out.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I always appreciate the support. You're always you've been a big supporter of the project since I started. So it only made sense that I would make you a part of this thing, and I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
And I know you're gonna do awesome, and I look forward to seeing what the future has in store for you, buddy.
Well, it's a White House in DC. It's a really nice house.
Okay, man. Well, if that's where you're headed, if that's where you'd like to end up, best of luck to you.
So it's really pretty. It's got a rose garden.
Yeah,
it's really nice. It's really nice.
Well, hey, look, dude. I'm not gonna rain on your parade. If that's where you're headed, that's where you see yourself being, then that's where I see you being, because you're a smart guy. You've got a lot going for you. And especially knowing where you've come from and where you're at now, you can obviously overcome. You've overcome a lot, and if you have the mental toughness to get beyond those trials and find yourself where you are at now, to be in a mindset to see yourself going further, then I'm all for it. Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm a big fan. All right, so this has been This Way Out. My guest, Ian Braddock. If you like this episode and you want to see future episodes, be sure to subscribe. Leave me some feedback. I'm always asking for feedback now, so please leave a comment and provide me some feedback. I'm looking for stuff on presentation. I'm looking for stuff on how engaging you think it is, whether or not you have any tips or tricks as to how to make it even more engaging. Please leave that information in the comment block. Hit the little bell to get notifications about future episodes. So also available on Instagram and Facebook at thiswoe.light. Available on Twitter at thiswoe_light. And then the website has the interviews, blogs, and articles, thiswoe-light.com. Ian, thanks, buddy.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
We'll see you guys later. God bless.